The Sendai Framework outlines 7 targets to reduce disaster risks around the world. But at the midpoint of the framework, we're now facing some alarming trends. Climate change is driving up the risk from disasters. Target A is to reduce the global disaster mortality by 2030. In 2020, COVID-19 increased the rate of death to a total of more than the previous 5 years combined. If current trends continue, the number of disasters per year globally may increase by 40% between 2015 and 2030 during the lifetime of the Sendai Framework, even without taking climate change into account. Target B is to reduce the number of people affected, but the rate of those impacted by disasters has risen dramatically in the past decade. Target C takes action to reduce economic losses. The growing economic impact of disasters is reversing development gains, slowing poverty reduction, and exacerbating hunger. And annual economic loss has significantly increased since the 1990s. The least developed countries are bearing the brunt of disaster impacts, often losing the highest share of national GDP. Target D aims to reduce damage to critical infrastructure and basic services. In 2020, disasters damaged or destroyed over 8,000 critical infrastructure facilities and disrupted nearly 290,000 services, majority of which were education and health facilities. However, progress is being made. Target E is to increase countries with DRR strategies. 123 countries now have national DRR strategies in place that incorporate the multi-sector and multi-hazard nature of disaster risk. However, implementation challenges remain. Target F is to enhance use of the Sendai Framework to developing countries. While disaster-related financing has increased, most is dedicated to emergency response after a disaster has occurred. Just 4% of all disaster-related financing goes to prevention and preparedness. So far, funding often fails to reach those who need it most. Nonetheless, innovative tools have been developed to trigger finances when most needed, to build resilience of communities, and to make development budgets better account for disaster risk management. As we complete 7 years of Sendai Framework implementation, the world has made some progress, but not enough to substantially reduce risk and losses. A key challenge is data. That remains too limited to capture the full extent of disaster impact. While a growing number of countries are reporting on at least one target, half of these countries, 78, have reported on all 7 targets. Global reporting must be stepped up to gauge progress comprehensively and identify priorities to accelerate action. We are not on track to achieve the Sendai Framework targets by 2030. If we want to reduce disaster risk, especially for those at the front line of disaster risk and the climate crisis, now is the time to act.